reminded of a testimony of a recent Nobel Peace Prize winner. She grew up in a patriarchal society, yet her testimony was that she was able to become a Nobel Peace Prize winner because the education system and the community did not clip her wings. I like that. She grew up in a patriarchal society, and yet she rose to the heights of becoming one of our international servants and leaders because the educational process, the community where she grew up, did not clip her wings. Texas, we are here to say, do not clip the wings of our children. Our children represent our future. Please don't clip their wings. Our children, in a real sense, sit in classrooms where they may one day become that scientist that opens up the era of new possibilities and scientific discoveries. Please don't clip their wings. Don't clip their wings, because in Texas, we may have in our classrooms that child who discovers the cure for AIDS and cancer. Please don't clip their wings, because if we don't clip their wings, they become the next Nobel Peace Prize winner. But in Texas, we are guilty of clipping the wings of too many of our children because we spend so much energy testing them instead of investing in them.
Back in 2001, George W. Bush was elected president. He started No Child Left Behind, which basically made schools have to be accountable for any federal money that they received. The way that they judged that accountability was through annual standardized tests to be given to every child across the country. And children were supposed to increase in proficiency up until the year 2015, where every child would be at 100% proficiency. That started this insane testing that went on around the country. And the problem is most of the testing is ran by Pearson. So they created these standardized tests which every child was supposed to be proficient at. And when the children didn't pass the test, then Pearson stepped in and sold all of the goods to help the school bring that child up to proficiency. The state of Texas spent billions of dollars having Pearson develop these tests for the schools. When the schools or the children didn't come up as proficient, they deemed that the schools were failing. And that's become the rhetoric of most of the reformers around the country today, that our educational system is failing, and therefore we need to step in and privatize the schools. In response to all of that, the legislatures have cut funding, especially in Texas. Back in 2010, cut millions of dollars of funding from public education. What that did was made schools have to do what they had to do to teach children with less money available.
Sure. Just a few weeks ago, Representative Jimmy Don Aycock brought a bill that would bring $3 billion back into public education. It's not enough to cover what's been cut, but it sure gets us some of the distance back, and it would sure help a lot of Texas school districts. So we're supporting that. There's also several testing bills, one in particular that would help high school students who aren't going to graduate because for one reason or another they haven't passed one of their tests. Some kids just don't test well, but they're really smart and they work hard. And so this would actually set up graduation committees that would look at how the kid's done and would help them still graduate. Also some testing bills around 3rd through 8th graders who are really, really over-tested. And finally, community schools is something we support as a really good, healthy solution for struggling schools, a way of supporting our schools. And there's House Bill 1891 and 1892 that we're working with through the House and Senate right now.
participating in this rally to talk about the effects of standardized testing, STAR test, on my daughter and on public schools, and what parents and community members can do to bring about change for our children.
Participating in the rally because we're here to support public schools. Public schools are the foundation of our society, and without public schools, we will not have an active society that's going to be able to contribute for today, tomorrow. It's flat out important, and we've got to get that message out there.
In professional baseball, the season isn't one game. It's game after game after game after game. But in this state, any given grade level, you've got one shot. And then you're going to, if you're lucky, you make it. If not, you're stressed into retaking and retaking. That's not education. That's just testing. You can take a thermometer and make it better and better and better. And you'll get an excellent reading on a fever, but you'll never treat the disease. You'll just have better readings on the fever. You need to take the money that we spend on testing and put it back in the classroom, back in the teacher's hands, so we can get on what education should be about.
Comfortable to help you have the kind of confidence that these kids have today, so you can stand up.
Save Texas schools! Save Texas schools! Save Texas schools!
You know, I've participated in several Save Texas Schools rallies, both in Fort Worth and in Austin, and I guess the reason I do that is because I believe that there's a lot of bad policy being peddled and passed, and I think that it's up to us, the people, to push back against that bad policy and try to advocate for positive change. The other thing I see that frustrates me no end is the inequitable funding, where neighboring schools, one school will get $1,000 more per pupil than the school next to them, and yet in our accountability system, they have to give the same tests, they have to attain the same passing standards, and you know, it's unjust in my opinion. It sets up one of those two communities for failure, and then that failure is touted in the newspapers to say, you know, the school is failing, when in reality there are systemic issues behind that purported failure.
Today is all about raising awareness about what's going on here at the Capitol, as far as the over-testing of students and underfunding of our public education, and then this concept called community schools, which is really, it's an idea of bringing community partners into a school to address the various factors that affect a student and the overall community.
Fight for equitable and adequate resources, not gimmicks and schemes. Stop defending the underfunding of our schools that hollows out promising children from challenging zip codes. Invest in these kids. Fight for educational fairness and justice. Support the public school system and stop tearing it down. And senators and representatives, pass laws that support these students. Don't let the golden voices of lobbyists drown out the cries of our students and their parents and teachers. It's time to end the reign of test and punish, of underfunding and overburdening our schools, of micromanagement by distant bureaucrats. That failed ideology belongs in the waste bin of history.
Please continue to stand strong for the over 5 million children in Texas public schools. Continue to make your voices heard. See, I'm convinced that when over 5 million children in our Texas public schools become the highest priority of enough people out here, it will become the highest priority of more people in there.